Hello, and welcome to the Indie Pop Girl, the podcast where you'll find music chat, new releases, hidden gems, and nostalgic deep dives. I am back with another episode, and I'll be discussing the much anticipated release, Virgin by Lorde. I will be talking about the tracks, the production, and the overall themes of the record. So if you are a fan of Lorde, or here as a new listener, please join me and let's discover this brand new release together. Virgin by Lorde was released on the 27th of June 2025 and is a fourth studio album and follow-up to Solar Power from 2021, which received polarising reviews from not only the critics but also received a lukewarm response from the fans and public. I think this affected Lorde, and it was inevitable that she would return to her trademark pop bangers. Her feature on Charlie XCX's Girl So Confusing remix in 2024 was not only a surprise, but received widespread critical acclaim, and the lyrics on the original gave Lorde the opportunity to discuss her own insecurities, and the comparison of the two singers that was generated by the press. Lorde was already touching on themes of her struggles with her eating disorder and body image in the song, and as a response from Charlie's original lyrics. With the confessional lyrics from Lorde and the two artists coming together and putting any previous tension aside, it was definitely a pop moment in 2024, and maybe this was a sign of what was coming from Lorde in terms of new music and what direction she was heading in. The production on Virgin was handled by Lorde and Jim E. Stack, with additional production from Dev Hynes, Dan Nigro and Buddy Ross. The record also sees contribution from Fabiana Palladino and Andrew Aged. The album was served by a lead single, What Was That, in April, and Lorde dropped the album announcement at the end of April, with the already recognisable artwork. Lorde also dropped a secret set at Glastonbury on release day and performed the record in its entirety. I mean, that is already iconic. What a statement to do something like that, and all those lucky people who were there, not knowing what was about to unfold. Before I go into the tracks, I always like to provide a bit of context before going in with my review. I've been a fan of Lorde since her debut with Pure Heroin in 2013 and Melodrama back in 2017. I think an episode dedicated to Melodrama is something that I am thinking about at the moment, and a record that I would love to talk about. I regard Melodrama very highly, and it is a record that I revisit often, so I was excited to see what Lorde would do next. And when Solar Power dropped in 2021, I was slightly disappointed, although I do enjoy some of the songs on the record, and I still do years later. The overall chilled, laid-back style just wasn't for me at the time. I much prefer her electronic sound, and I would say that is her signature sound. Her unique vocal timbre is something I noticed straight away with Lorde, and I really enjoy her vocal delivery. She has this rasp when she goes in her lower register, but then she can just soar in a higher range. See the song Writer in the Dark for an example. I am really drawn to her unconventional style of her songwriting and her attention to detail in the studio. Lorde is a really interesting artist to me, even if some of her work doesn't hit. But you have to respect how she's evolved and the time she takes in the creation of her records. Virgin has been highly anticipated, and I only listened to the lead single, What Was That, before release day, and I saved the other two singles to listen to in the context of the record. I don't like hearing lots of singles that have dropped before an album comes out. I much prefer to have that full experience going into a new record, as I usually wait for the vinyl to arrive before I have that first listen. And that is exactly what I did for Virgin on release day. For the first listen, I just played the vinyl through, which was an amazing experience, by the way. And then over the course of the day, I listened to it a few times on headphones, which gives you a different angle and you can pick up the subtle things in the production. I also needed a bit of time with the lyrics on this record because Virgin is a record that you will definitely not pick everything up on the first listen. So any lyrics that stood out to me during my listens, I will mention here the best I can. But I usually pick up how the production sounds, the melodies, and the vocal performance first, so I will be as descriptive as I possibly can. So let's go through the record track by track and give you my thoughts on Virgin by Lorde. As I have mentioned in previous episodes, I will not be playing clips of the songs, so if you are curious, then please support the artists I cover by streaming, downloading, or buying physical copies. Thank you. I also just want to give out a disclaimer before I start discussing the tracks. If you have not heard this record before, I just want to put out a trigger warning as the content that I'm going to talk about covers a lot of adult themes and some of the material may be distressing or triggering for listeners. Please take care while listening and do feel free to skip if the themes may be distressing to you. Thank you. Track 1, Hammer. As soon as you hit play, you are hit with punchy synths that just hit you in the face. The panning on headphones on this is just wonderful during the intro, and this song just builds up and explodes when it gets to the chorus. This track is so punchy and Lorde delivers her vocals with urgency. The production is kind of abrasive in places and the sense of release is really emphasised with the synths that come in. I just need to mention Lorde's lyrics here as she gives you a lot of lyrical imagery and her descriptions are so on point. There's a lot to unpack here, but to open up this song and the record with "There's a heat in the pavement, my mercury's raising, don't know if it's love or if it's ovulation." I interpret that line that Lorde is describing her horniness here. She could mean that her mercury's rising, meaning her body temperature is rising. She mentions ovulation, and during the menstrual cycle, your body temperature can rise and sexual arousal and feelings can be heightened. She could be in love, lust, feeling desire for this person, but it could be just the ovulation and she's just, well, horny. If you own a copy of the vinyl, then you will know of the image that is included on the booklet. And just by that image alone, it kind of gives you a hint that this record is going to be sexual and that Lorde is going to explore sexual themes. And at the same time, Lorde is battling her gender identity. And she references this in Hammer with the "some days I'm a woman, some days I'm a man" line. Lorde is setting up the narrative of the album's journey with the song and her rebirth, hence the Virgin album title. I just want to mention a line in the outro. "It's a fucked up world, been to hell and back, but I've sent you a postcard from the edge." This straight away reminded me of the film Postcards from the Edge, starring Meryl Streep. That film from 1990 was based on Carrie Fisher's novel, and the story is about addiction, recovery, fame, and also the complicated mother-daughter dynamic. Lorde does explore the mother-daughter narrative in the record later on, and I think these things align thematically, with Lorde reflecting on pain, survival and resilience. Lorde could be layering a cultural reference here, or I could be completely off the mark, but as soon as I heard that line, I thought of that film immediately. The themes explored, as well as Carrie Fisher's troubled life. Lorde could be using that line as a metaphor, like sending a postcard from a personal breakdown but surviving it. Learning to let go of the past and being able to move on from trauma and having a rebirth, starting again. Track 2, What Was That? So this is the lead single that was released back in April and had a positive response. When this dropped, it made me excited of Lorde's new era and what was about to unfold. I really loved this track as a standalone, but since hearing it within the context of the album, it has become so much stronger for me. It is slightly similar to Hammer, where it is kind of stripped back but then just explodes in the chorus. Lorde's lyrics touch on her reminiscing on a previous relationship that is broken down and the aftermath that followed. Lorde is reflective and you can feel her grief and pain through her vocal performance. She sings the line, "Make a meal I won't eat." And I think this line, it does hint at her eating disorder that she's been quite open with, and possibly depression that could come in, after a breakup. As in the pre-chorus, she is thinking about her ex and admits that "I'm missing you and all the things we used to do." I interpret the chorus of Lorde just thinking, "Fuck it, yes, I miss you," but she cleverly combines her grief and anger, and at the same time the nostalgia and being reflective of when they were together. Lorde uses the song to process the breakup, and as the song progresses, it seems to me that Lorde is starting to heal as she sings in the outro, "When I'm in the blue light, I can make it all right." There is definitely some tension in release, and on first listen I was thinking about an eventual release later on in the record where Lorde has found her peace. I really love the upbeat arrangement, and Lorde just has this gift of writing something so painful like this, but at the same time the instrumental just drives the song, and I think having it so upbeat could be the key into Lorde's healing. For example, also see Green Light. I just want to mention the clever use of the current affairs reference, which Lorde mentions in verse 2, and this is explored further during track 6. Track 3, Shapeshifter. So this is an instant highlight for me from the record. Such an interesting song and concept to use the phrase shapeshifter to portray herself in the lyrics. This could mean her struggle with her own personal identity and gender, but the song also explores her romantic relationships. Lorde sounds so good here. She comes in with a spoken word in the intro, and I love how close she sounds in the mix. Her vocals are so front and centre, and it's like she's confessing to you. It is so intimate. You can feel the song building with the unique beats, and you can really feel Jim E. Stack's presence here. The production is so impressive. I am not sure if it is live strings or sample strings that come in, but it is so effective and just adds to the atmosphere. I just love how the song progresses and Lorde's vocals on the outro. Holy shit, just wow. She sounds so good, and I love it when she pushes her voice like that. You can feel everything that she is feeling, and it just made me feel so emotional. You really have to experience this track on headphones. It's the only way that I can describe it. It's an absolute must. Track 4, Man of the Year. So, like I mentioned earlier, I avoided this when it dropped, but I saw a snippet of the video and wow, Lorde is not holding back here. This song clocks in at 3 minutes, but boy does Lorde pack in so much. She continues the theme with her dealing with her gender, and I see this song and video as Lorde expressing herself as a sense of release and relief. In the video, Lorde tapes her naked chest with silver duct tape and eventually dances in soil. And when I saw this for the first time, I just saw it as Lorde being free and finding herself and just letting her artistry guide and using it to express herself and to eventually to find peace and heal. I found the video extremely powerful and a breath of fresh air. It feels raw but empowering, and I would imagine that Lorde felt this during the shooting of the video. Again, with the song, we have a slow build, but this song is about Lorde's voice and her lyrics, and again, it just feels so intimate, like she's just confessing to you. You can kind of feel that something is building, and eventually the synths come in and the song just explodes. The drums on this are quite harsh, almost industrial, and overall, when you get to the end, it just feels like a huge release. I respect her so much to make a statement like this, and I just adore the texture and the build within the production. Track 5, Favourite Daughter. So in Hammer, Lorde sings, "It's a fucked up world, been to hell and back, but I've sent you a postcard from the edge." A line that feels like a quiet nod to Postcards from the Edge that I mentioned earlier about addiction, identity, and strained maternal expectations. A story living in the shadow of an overbearing mother. The tension between performance, expectation, and genuine selfhood runs through Favourite Daughter as well. Lorde seems to be speaking directly to that feeling of being prized because of how well you perform or present. Lorde touches on her critical and commercial success in the chorus and describing herself as an actress, winning awards and dealing with her anxiety and stage fright. The intense pressure to meet expectations and the crippling thoughts and doubts that appear as a result. Lorde also touches on her uncle who died by suicide when she was very young. It's a quiet but devastating line, suggesting that Lorde grew up with the memory of someone who was overwhelmed by emotion, by expectation, or by the world itself. At 28, she stands just beyond the symbolic shadow of the 27 Club, the age that looms over so many young artists. It's hard not to read this as a quiet act of resistance. Lorde choosing to live, to keep creating, and to carry that inherited pain without letting it consume her. Lorde is very aware of the destructive mythology around young, gifted artists burning out or breaking down before their time, especially for women. It's a song heavy with emotional expectation, the quiet burden of being everyone's pride, the version of yourself that pleases others but chips away at your own sense of truth. Together, they trace a subtle arc from compliance to collapse to survival. The closing line, breaking my back just to be as brave as my mother, is just so powerful. I love Lorde's vocal delivery in this song, and the upbeat instrumental is a stark juxtaposition to the song's bleak lyrics and subject matter. Track 6, Current Affairs. Another standout for me during first listen. There is some great guitar in the intro, and it kind of reminded me of Taylor Swift's You're on Your Own Kid from Midnight's. The sample in the chorus is Morning Love by Dexter Daps, and when that comes in, it is just so unexpected and a little jarring at first, but after a few listens, it just works so well. The vocal production is just so clean, and I love what Lorde does with her lead and background vocals. She is so creative in the way in how she adds layers and switches things up. Lorde is talking about another doomed relationship here, and she bluntly describes in the first verse, "You tasted my underwear, I knew we were fucked," is just so blunt and direct, and I love how Lorde isn't holding back. She's telling it like it is, and I am here for it. She knows it's not going to work out, and the relationship is probably based on lust instead of a connection. And in the chorus, she tells us that her bed is on fire. I interpret this as the relationship has fizzled out and gone up in flames. Lorde turns to her mother for comfort and advice in the line, "Mama, I'm so scared, don't know how to come back." Lorde is deeply confessional in this song, and she actually confesses to watching the infamous sex tape of Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee during their honeymoon while dabbling in MDMA. I am not sure what Lorde is going for here, as the sex tape leak deeply affected Pamela and caused her with immense trauma. Maybe this relationship that has gone up in flames has fucked up Lorde too, and in her grief and sexual desire, she had the urge to watch the sex tape. She knows it's fucked up in itself, but Lorde sings that it was pure and true, and sees the tape as sexual freedom. Even though it is fucked up, it is so raw, personal, and confessional, and brave for Lorde to admit this. But with the trauma and pain that caused Pamela, I can see why this has ruffled some feathers and caused some critique. I know Lorde was receiving therapy at the time, and I was surprised when she gave the interview and confessed watching the sex tape. And when I got to this song on first listen, and with the reference, I was like, oh no. I think in this case, some things are better left unsaid. It is still a stellar track though. Track 7, Clear Blue. Wow, I was so not ready for this track. God damn. I have read a mixed response online about this song, and I know it won't be for everyone, but my God, this captivated me right from the start. It is very short, so I kind of see the song as an interlude within the record. But oh my God, Lorde packs a punch here lyrically. The title is named after the pregnancy test of the same name, and Lorde is very blunt and direct here, and she lets the lyrics to be centre stage with the sparse production. She wants you to hear what she has to say and the intention to feel uncomfortable. The track wouldn't have the same emotional impact buried under a glossy production or something. Lorde's vocal is modified with layers. I think she is using a vocoder, which I am a sucker for, and her vocal performance here is just stunning. You have to see the performance of this at Glastonbury. I could see the emotion in her eyes and it got me choked up. I live for tracks like this on a record that are unexpected, that you don't see coming, and has you in a chokehold. It's the only way I can describe it. Lorde is tackling the concept of unprotected sex and testing for pregnancy. There is complex grief, confusion, and maybe even regret to follow. Her vocals are like she's longing in the silence, just waiting. She is sexually direct in the lyrics, but clever in the way that it isn't overly explicit. She sings in verse 3, "I feel you answer, my hips moving faster. I rode you until I cried." And Lorde cleverly uses the impact of this line in the delivery of her background vocals, which sounds like she is letting out an orgasmic cry. It is just genius. And then she sings, "How's it feel being this alive?" suggesting that sex and the climax has satisfied and fulfilled her, and it's made her feel alive. And she hints in the song, "I'm free." But on the outro, she switches it up and confesses that she wishes that she had kept the clear blue. It's just an emotional gut punch. This track displays Lorde's skill as a songwriter and how descriptive she is. The vivid imagery combined with the overwhelming sadness at the end. My jaw literally dropped on the first listen. It is so vulnerable, and I respect Lorde for being so honest and raw. When I was listening to this, I immediately thought of Hide and Seek by Imogen Heap and Me and a Gun by Tori Amos. I'm not saying that the subject matter is the same, because it is not. But all three of these songs are confessional and honest, and all of them really make you sit up and take notice. What an artistic statement. Wow. Track 8, GRWM. When I saw the title of this, I thought of the social media term "get ready with me," but it is actually grown woman in the context of the song. And Lorde is continuing the sexual themes from Clear Blue. The first line is "soap washing him off my chest," which leaves nothing to the imagination. But I was also thinking about the silver duct tape from Man of the Year, so it could mean a metaphor for that as well. I think this is further proof of how clever and intricate Lorde is with her lyrics. And maybe she is shedding the binding of her chest previously, and on this song she is searching within herself the grown woman that she describes in the chorus. I think at this point the healing is coming in, but the track is industrial with the production, but it sounds soft and angelic at the same time. I interpret that as the industrial sound on the album to represent the man, and the soft heavenly elements as the woman, going back to track 1, Hammer, and the "some days I'm a woman, some days I'm a man" line. I just love Lorde's background vocals on this track as well. I absolutely adore this. Track 9, Broken Glass. So we continue the deeply confessional nature of the lyrics, and this song talks about Lorde's battle with an eating disorder. Again, the beat is quite harsh and aggressive, but despite the dark subject matter, I really think that Lorde's vocals here sound really confident. It feels like she's punching the mirror and letting go and being free, but it feels like she's singing to herself here, reminding herself of how the eating disorder was destroying her, and even admits in the first verse, "I hate to admit just how much I paid for it." Lorde is feeling the strain, and she knows she is paying the price for starving her body, and as a result, an unhealthy state. She confesses in the song about her teeth rotting, her loss of sexual drive and libido. And Lorde is so self-aware as she hints in her sarcastic vocal tone of her carelessness, but she's also battling her demons. Verse 2 is very telling that I'm scared to quit, loosen my grip. It's tough to admit just how much I get from it. It's like she's getting a kick from the control and seeing her body in such an unhealthy state. It's like she can't stop even though she knows she is destroying herself, just like an addiction. But as the song progresses, Lorde tells herself to keep the faith, and it's just a phase, hinting that she can see the light and she's able to actually find the strength and punch the mirror and break free from her demons and eating disorder. Track 10, If She Could See Me Now. This is probably my favourite track on the record. What a standout. God, I wish this track was longer, and I hope Lorde will provide an extended version of this in the future. I've read online that a deluxe could be a possibility. Nothing has been confirmed yet, but I know Lorde has some unreleased tracks that didn't make the final cut, so it would be awesome if she gave us an extended instrumental, because this track is just what I love about pop music. I love the build and the synth stabs. Again, the drum beat is quite harsh, and I just have to say that Lorde and Jim are a match made in heaven on this record. What a chorus. The synth and the acoustic guitar that comes in is just genius. I love how Lorde is not giving a fuck in her vocal performance, and she's finally moving on with the person she is now, and the instrumental is perfectly matched here. This might sound completely off the track here, but when I was listening to this on my first listen and hearing the combination of the acoustic guitar and the synths in the chorus, it just reminded me of the War on Drugs, and at times their complex production. Using live instrumentation with an electronic production, it just gets me every time, and I would love for Lorde to explore this even further. I was also thinking about solar power as well, and how would it sound with electronic elements just to give it that lift. It's an interesting concept for sure. Track 11, David. So we come to the last track on the record, and what an emotional note to end on. I love how she references pure heroin in the lyrics. It's such a clever take on words and her metaphor for her identity. Lorde seems to be addressing someone she loved deeply. I think the breakup from her ex-partner is still affecting her in this song. Lorde, again, being really clever with her descriptive lyrics in this song. And I noticed in verse 1, she sings, "At the sunset tower, you said, open your mouth." I did. Lorde recorded Melodrama at the Sunset Tower, which is in West Hollywood. And this phrase could mean her literally singing, or it could relate to oral sex, which ties in with the vulnerability that Lorde has already touched on. She loved that person so much, and she even sings in the pre-chorus, "If I'd had virginity, I would have given that too." What a profound, powerful line. To sing something like that to a person and be willing to give her partner anything in the world, even something that she no longer has. I hope her ex has heard this track, because oh my god, what an emotional gut punch this song is. I also think people will connect to the song if you've been in a relationship where you are so consumed by this person, but the love is not returned. You will do anything, give anything, but you realise that the relationship is one-sided and unhealthy and not good for the soul. The name David could be literal, symbolic, or biblical, as in David v Goliath, which is a metaphor for vulnerability, rebellion, or personal struggle. She sings with both affection and resignation, like she's preserving something precious while acknowledging that it's over. It is so touching. And when you get to the outro, where Lorde repeats, "Am I ever gonna love again?" it just destroys you. And that glitchy production that comes in near the outro, it just comes out of nowhere and it is just pure genius. And the song ends with Lorde saying, "Tell it to him," which is a callback to Tennis Court, A World Alone on Pure Heroin, and Hard Feelings Loveless from Melodrama. Lorde is telling us as the listener to tell our truth like she has done on Virgin. It certainly makes you think and leaves an emotional impact on you well after the album is finished. I thought that the atmosphere of the song reminded me of Bon Iver, especially as Jimmy Stack handled the production on Sable Fable that was released this year, which I will discuss at some point. And when I looked at the credits, I noticed that Justin Vernon plays the guitar and the bass on this track, which is just awesome. I think this is a record that will grow over time and something that requires to be consumed as a piece of art. And although some tracks would work on their own in a playlist, for example, I think this is a record that deserves your attention and to be consumed as a whole. I think Lorde has excelled herself with this release. She's pushed herself to the brink lyrically and vocally and just poured her heart out. I hope you get to listen to this, and this record is definitely an AOTY contender, but I just don't know where I would rank it within my current list. And with the releases coming very soon, I think the end of this year is going to be very interesting. And that brings us to the end of Virgin. This is Lorde at her most unguarded, wiping the slate clean, moving on from the past, and stepping into a version of herself that fully embraces complexity, gender, and identity. It's not about reinvention in a pop star sense. It's deeper than that. Virgin is about self-acceptance, messy, painful, and powerful. This isn't an easy record, and I don't think I'd even class this as a pop record fully. Despite some moments of upbeat production and playful sounds. This is not a happy album. It's reflective, confessional, and often confrontational. The lyrics are blunt, sometimes even uncomfortable, and that's intentional. Lorde is asking us to sit with the discomfort, not to escape it. That might be challenging for some listeners, and I completely understand if parts of this record are triggering or simply not for you. And that's okay. The sexual content on Virgin is bold and unfiltered, but never gratuitous. Lorde navigates intimacy with clarity and maturity, which I personally really appreciate. Lorde is articulate and she's owning her own narrative. That takes guts, and more to that, it takes real skill to make something this raw feel so composed, so precise, and still so emotionally true. I believe in her honesty. I believe this album comes straight from her heart. Virgin is intense, intimate, and unflinching. A body of work that challenges, moves, and ultimately endures. It's a record that will stand the test of time because this is coming from an authentic place and her heart. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Reviewing this record was a huge challenge, but so rewarding for me, and I hope the love comes across with my thoughts. Records like this is why I love music so much, and why I am so passionate in talking about it. Please follow me on Instagram at the Indie Pop Girl, where I'll be creating more content and mini reviews. I'm also building up my reviews on AOTY, so come say hello and let's talk about the music that moves us so much. If you've enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you could follow, share, or leave a review, as it helps other music lovers to find the show. I've also created a public Spotify playlist and added some of my favourite tracks from the artists that I've already covered. And as the episodes grow, I'll be adding more. So if you are curious with any of the artists and albums that I've covered, please give it a listen, and who knows, you might find a new discovery. I will be back very soon with another episode in my Throwback Friday series, and the record I will be talking about next is one of my all-time favourites, which was ahead of its time back in 2004. Stay tuned. Until then, I'm Rachel, the Indie Pop Girl. Thanks for listening, and I will see you next time.